Yeah, hello guys, welcome to this course. This course is going to be about React, Redux, and TypeScript. We'll be fetching our data from JSON placeholder. So this would give us a list of posts, and we are going to render it in our React application with the help of React, Redux, and TypeScript. Redux would be our state management. At the end of this course, you would have learned how to integrate React with Redux and TypeScript. So I've already generated a file using this command. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to cd into the created file. I'm going to open it with my code editor, Visual Studio Code. So just wait for it. Okay, it's done. It's done. And next, let's just run npm start and have a feel for the boilerplate React app. So I'll run npm start and okay, it's starting up. Alright, 3000 is already in use, so I'll just say yes to use on that port. Obviously, that might not be your case if you don't have, or if you're not using port 3000. So this is the app that React generates for us, and normally what I like doing, I like deleting everything and starting from scratch. So I'll just delete all the files that React automatically generates, and we are going to start everything from scratch. So I'll go into the source folder. And since we're using TypeScript, I'll create an index.tsx file. So, so I'll have to import React from React, and also import React DOM from React-DOM. And quickly, I'll just create an app component that I would render on the screen. So just h1 that says the app component. And then I'll say React DOM.render. And then what do I want to render? I want to render the app component in the place of document dot get element by id of root, because in the public folder we have an index.html file, and inside there we have a div with an id of root. So I will save it, and then if we go back to our screen, we should see a h1 that says the app component. Okay, fail to compile, we'll just refresh, we reload, and exactly what we see, the app component. So next, I think we should just go ahead and install our dependencies, the dependencies that we'll need to integrate Redux into our project. So we'll just quickly install the following. We'll install Redux, which is obviously the state management tool that we need. We'll install React Redux, which makes Redux works nicely with React. Redux tongue for async operations, and Redux DevTools extension, so that we can always have look into our state, dive into the DevTools, and know what the current state of our application is. So just run npm install, and we'll install all these dependencies. So as it installs, let's go and create a folder we'll call store, and inside we'll create a store.ts file. So we need to import some things in order to create our store, because now we want to create our store. So we import something from Redux, and in order to create a store, we need to import create store from Redux. So we'll create a store constant and initialize our create store. Now create store takes in a couple of arguments. So it needs let's export it. Create store needs a couple of arguments. It needs to take in the reducers, and it also needs to take in reducers, and then we'll give it composed of dev tools, which which acts as an enhancer, and then we'll call apply middleware. Please don't forget to import all these things from their respective imports. Apply middleware is coming from Redux, and thunk would come from Redux thunk. So, and also we need to pass a reducer. We don't have a reducer file, so we would quickly create one, a reducers, and a reducers folder, and inside there we'll create an index.ts. So now we need to create our reducers, and then let's start with our post reducer, since we are going to render a list of posts. So we need to create a post reducer. Now, what is a reducer? A reducer is just a function at the end. So we'll just create a constant and we'll export the constant, call it post reducer. A reducer takes the current state and then it takes the action. So now you see we're already having some errors that about our state and action, but we'll get to it. Let's go up, and he's saying, well, state has of type any. So let's go and define a type for our state, so that Redux would, so that TypeScript will know what type of argument or what type of argument our state is. So we'll create an interface. We'll call it post state. So now initially loading is going to be a boolean, because it's either we are loading or not. Our error state is going to be of type string or null. Also, we'll have data, which is going to be our list of posts. Data is going to be an array of objects or null. Later, we'll come back and define the type of post that data should be. So we'll say our state will be of type post state. So that's it for defining the type of state we have. So we also need to initialize it, and then we would create a constant which we'll call initial state, and then we would say initial state is equal to an object that will match the interface that we declared. So we would go back and say initial state. So what is our initial state? Initially, we would say we are loading. Loading is going to be false, because initially we are not loading. And initially error is going to be null, because we don't have an error, and data is going to be null. So when our state loads, it's going to have a loading state of false, an error of null, and a data of null. So how about our action now? It's still giving us an error, so we need to define a type for our action. And in order to do that, we would before we do that, let's go and create our reducers first. So in order to create a reducer, we'll say import combine reducers from Redux, and then we need to import the post reducer from post reducer. So we would import post reducer from post reducer. So now we are going to create our reducer. So we'll say const reducers is going to be equal to combine reducers, because obviously in your state you might have more than one reducer, and by default to access the reducer we're going to call it post, and we are going to say post is equal to post reducer. So let's export these reducers as a default. So we'll export default reducers. So now our store will be able to have the reducers and be able to load them. So now let's go and define a type for our action. So in our store folder, we're going to create another folder. We will call it actions. So now create another folder that we'll call actions, and let's go on with the action types, because it's kind of confusing when you want to integrate actions, because we have different types of actions and we need to state the types of actions individually. So we would create an enum in TypeScript, action types. So these are the types of action we will be able to have. So we're going to have get post request, which is just like a constant, So we're going to say it's equal to get post request, And that's when the action will call when we are sending a request to fetch the post. We are going to have another action, get post success. So this action will fire it when we are successful fetching our post, and we're going to have get post fail. So this is in case we have an error in fetching our post. So we're going to export default action type. So now we have our types of action. We have our type of action, and then we will go and create another file called the index.ts. So we are going to import our action type from action type. So now what we are going to do in this file, we are going to create an interface for our different types of action. So this interface, we are going to call it get post request action. So this is the action. This action will have a type, which is action type dot get post request. We just finished defining our action type. So this is the action. So it doesn't have any payload because we are just sending out the request. So we're going to have another type, an interface for get post success action, which is going to have a type, action type dot dot get post success. So this is the interface for this get post success action, and it's going to have a type, a payload, which is going to be an array of object. Later we'll come and define the actual payload that we are expecting. So also have an interface get post fail action, which is going to have a type of action type dot get post fail, and it's also going to have a payload. The payload here is going to be a string because it's going to be our error message. So we are going to export all this type, and we're going to call it action. So we're going to export action. Our action is going to be of type get post fail or get post success action, or our action is going to be of type get post fail action. So we now have a type for our action. So our action is either going to be get post fail, get post success action, or it's going to be of type get post fail action. But there's a typo there. Let me quickly correct that. I have that duplicated. Yes, so this is our action types, the types of action. This is now a TypeScript feature, nothing to do with Redux at this point in time. So let's go on and define the type of let's go on. As you can see, our data there too is an array of objects. So let's go and define a model. So we'll go in our source folder and we'll create a models folder. Let's define a type for our post. So inside the models folder, we're going to create a file called postmodel.ts. So here we're going to define a type for our post, because this is how our post is going to look like. Our post is going to be an object which is going to have a user ID, which is of type number. Also going to have an ID, which is of type number. And we are going to have, our post is going to have a title, which is of type string, and a body, which contains the actual post, which is of type string. All these things, I'm seeing it from our JSON placeholder. Yes, our post has an ID, user ID, title, and body. So when we get this data, that is how we expect our post to be. So let's go on and export this our post type. So we export it as default post. So with this now, we can clearly go into our store and define the actual data that we're expecting. So our post state, initial state, is going to be of type post, which is going to come from the model. So now if we hover around it, you see our data is going to be an array of posts. That's that. And if also we go into not there, our action, we are also going to define a type for our post. So it's going to be an array of posts. Please import post from models, your post model folder. So now we're done. It's time to state our type of action. So our action is going to be of type action, and action is coming from Redux. We just finished defining the different action types. No, it's not going to be from Redux. Our action is going to be from our actions folder. We just finished defining the types of action we have. So we are not using our action yet and our state. So now we are going to define our actual post reducer. So that's just a bit of refactor. And let's declare, you see this is our post function. Let's declare the return type for it. So as you can see, it says it's return void. So let's say,
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away.
Yeah, I'm about to fade away, cause every time I wake up I feel like it's Monday. Something's going wrong with all the chemicals up in my brain. All of a sudden I don't look at anything the same way. Gotta build up of my thoughts sitting in an ashtray. I'm sorry that I'm so inconvenient, okay. Just let me be me and I'll stay out of your way. I can see the way you look at me, I'm such a disgrace. I never really asked to be brought into this place. You wanna love me? Well then baby have a taste. All the highs and the lows, no you'll never be the same. I don't really wanna hurt you but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side, maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change I need today. I promise that I've never felt this way. I really hope that you will choose to stay through all the pain.
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away, as you fade away. Try to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes skies fade to gray.
Constant export would import action from just go up one level and then import action. So let's go on and define our function. We'll use a try catch, but first of all try, and then we'll dispatch an action of type is going to be action type. So we import action type from action types, and then action type dot get post request. So once we call this function, we're going to dispatch the action, and you know that this action has been defined in our reducer. So let's await. Now this is the time we'll send since we're using await, we're going to make this function async. So we're going to await axios.get. So this is the time we send a get request to our JSON placeholder, and then Axios, we can tell Axios the type of post the kind of response we are returning. So I've told Axios that we are going to be expecting a type of post array. So next thing it needs is the URL. So we'll just come here and copy the URL and go back and paste it there. So that's the URL that returns the data, but we need to add a query string, a query param at the end to limit it by 10, because by default, I guess it's about 100. So with that query parameter, we reduce the limit to just 10. So now if it's successful, we are going to dispatch another action with a type action type dot get post sources. So this is the type of action we'll dispatch if it's successful. And then our payload is going to be data, which we are getting from our backend API, which is our array of posts. So now we add a catch block just in case we are not successful in fetching our data. So always error type is always going to be of type any. So in our catch block, we are going to dispatch an action which type action type dot get post fail. So we'll dispatch this action if we are not successful, and our payload is going to be the error.message. So error.message is going to be our payload. So this is our get post action. This is the action we would call when we want to fetch our post. So now we are done. Oh, there's a typo there. Let me quickly fix it. It's not double N, but one N. So this is our action. Now we are done with our action. The next thing to do, we save all the file. Let's close all so that it's easier for us to manage. So now we need to start laying out our components. So, but before we do that, let's write an index.ts where we'll be importing our file so that we don't have to go into our action to start this importing our different types of action. So let's create our store. So first of all, import everything from store, and also we're going to import everything as post action from. So we just go up into our actions folder. So with this, our action creators and then our post action. So with this definition here, So to use dispatch, we'll say const dispatch is equal to use dispatch. So on our use effect, we want to dispatch action. Use effect is just like if you're used to the old, the class-based React, not really old, just like component did mount. And in our use effect, we would have to give it an empty array. So this use effect is always run once the component loads. So we are going to dispatch an action. So now we have already created an action type. So dispatch needs to take in the action. So we'll go into post actions dot get post. So post actions is coming from our store. So now this, once the component mounts, we are going to try to fetch our post, and then let's go use selector so that we can subscribe. We can always get the current snapshot of our state. Use selector takes in a function which argument is state, and then it returns state.post. But as you can see, we have not imported use selector. So let's go up and then import use selector from React Redux. So yeah, we'll be importing use selector from React Redux, but we are still getting an error because post does not exist on type default root state. So it's a shame. Well, TypeScript don't know the type of post, so that our state has a post property. So in order to be able to solve that error message, we would need to create something like our own use selector. So first of all, we'll go into our reducers folder, and we'll come below the reducer, and we're going to export a type. We'll call it root state, and then this type is going to have a return type on it, which is a TypeScript feature. So we can say, okay, this is always going to return a type of reducers, the reducers that is our combined reducers that we define up there. So now we have that. We are going to create another folder which we call hooks, and inside this folder we are going to create a file which we call use typed selector.ts. So in our use type selector, let's go and let's configure the type of state we have. So in order to configure that, we would need to import something from React Redux, and that something is use selector. So we need to import use selector. We also need to import typed use selector from React Redux, and also we need to import something from store. So we'll go on. Yeah, we need to go up one level. So we're going to import our root state. So root state is what we just defined in our reducers folder. And now let's go on and create our own use selector. So we'll say export const use selector is going to be of typed use selector hook, which is of generic type, and we're going to say this is of type root state, which we are importing from our store. So now there's a clash because we have use selector there, and we are going to export it as underscore use selector so that we can always use use selector in our own file. So whenever we want to select a snapshot of our state, we are going to use that use selector. So we'll no longer use this one, and instead we are going to use our own use selector. So let's go on and import it. So we are going to import something from our hooks, and that hooks and use type selector, and what we want to import is our own use selector. So now the error message is gone, and if you hover around state, it now tells us that state is of type post, which is of type post state, and that type post state is coming from our combined reducers. That's where we are seeing it here, which is our post reducer, which has that type. So now we are done defining and using our own use selector. So from there, we are going to extract loading, error, and data. So now this is the moment we go on and write our actual JSX for our components. So we'll be using Bootstrap in this application. So let's quickly install Bootstrap. So we'll say npm install Bootstrap. So to quickly get some styling and not waste our time, so we can focus more on our logic. So we'll go to our source folder while that's installs. We'll create a components folder, and inside there we're going to have a component which is going to be, we're going to have a post card component. So that's our actual post card. So let's go on and declare our postcard.tsx component. So here we would write our actual postcard component, which we are going to render in our app screen. So in our postcard, we are going to import fc from React. That is to annotate the type of our functionent, our component. We also need to import post from models, post model. And just bring it down. Now let's write our actual JSX. Postcard is going to be of type fc. So it's going to be, we are going to take in props, because we would render this component in our app component. So it's going to take in props, and we'll write our return keyword. Let's define an interface for our props. So we'll say interface post props is going to be an object which is going to have a post which is going to be of type post. So this component is going to be of type post. That's for an individual post. So we have our type now. We can say const empty bracket is equal to props. We are going to destructure our post from props instead of using post.props, props.post. And inside our post, we are going to destructure body, title, ID, and that's what we're going to need to render a list of posts. So we'll say class name is equal to card for our actual JSX. And inside there, we're going to have, inside our card, we're going to have another div with a class name card header. And inside the card header, we are going to render our ID. So after that, we have another div which is going to be the actual body of our post. So we'll call it, give it a class name of card body. And all these are just Bootstrap card names. And we would have a h5 which has a class name of card title, which is going to be our title, the title of our post. And below it, we are going to have a paragraph with a class name of card text. And inside there, we are going to have the body of our post. So this is our JSX. So one last thing, just create something like an action button. It's actually not working, but just to make it look a little bit fancy, we'll give it button primary, and then we'll just add the text, read more. So this is actually our post, and then we'll export our postcard as the default. We have an error up there, and I think that's because we are not using our post props. So we would come there and say post props. So that type of props that our component would have. So it knows ID is going to be of type number. So the error is gone, and that's because of our post model that we have already defined earlier. So you see how things become reusable, the post model. So as you can see, we are using some bootstrap class names, and we need to tell our application that we are using bootstrap. And in order to do that, we would need to import, no, not that, we would need to import bootstrap, and inside there, that's from our node modules, this folder, we go /css / and then we'll import the bootstrap.main.css. That's the minified version. So now in our app component, we are going to be using our post component. So in order to render our post, we are going to have a div. We are going to give it a class name of container, and then let's just give it padding. We'll give it padding by saying py5. And we are going to have another div with a class name of row. And inside the div, we are going to say if we are loading, then actually we can just go on and create another component for our loader. I'm just trying to show you how you can reuse components in React. So in our components, we are going to have a UI folder, and inside the UI folder, we are going to have our loader. So we'll just create a loader.tsx file, and quickly we are going to import fc from Redux, and then we'll create the actual JXS for our loader. We'll say loader is of type fc. It's going to be an arrow function, very simple arrow function as you would imagine, and we would give it call md6 and also call lg4. And in React, once we're using the map, it always needs the key, and we'll just use the post ID for key since it's unique in our case. And inside there, we're going to render inside the div, we're going to render our post card. So don't forget to import post card. And inside the post card, we're going to give it the individual post as props. So we'll say post is equal to post. So now we save all files, and then yeah, this is basically it. If we go to our, okay, we have an error. So let's see. Okay, store has no imported member root state. I think we'll just go into our post reducer. Not there. Yeah, index.ts, and then let's just resave. Maybe perhaps it didn't save, so it compiles and it's successful. So we'll go back to our component, our app, we refresh, we see our spinner, and there you have it. We have our list of posts rendered on the screen. So via Redux, you can see our data now is an array of posts, and we have just 10 posts, that's from 0 to 9 because we limited it. So we go to our console. Okay, we need to add dependency dispatch. So we'll go to our app.txt. We are not using error, so we can let go of it, and then we need to add dispatch as a dependency. So since we're not using error, we can delete it, but in your app you can always use it to show the error message. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I hope you actually learned. So